In Jude verse 9, we encounter a unique event not mentioned elsewhere in Scripture. It describes a struggle or dispute between the Archangel Michael and Satan over the body of Moses. Although the details of this event are not provided, it is clear that Michael, even in his dispute with Satan, did not resort to abusive condemnation. Instead, he humbly said, "The Lord rebuke you." This incident, exclusive to the book of Jude, raises the question of its origin. Some suggest that this information was passed down through tradition, but we cannot be certain. The exact reason for the dispute between Michael and Satan over Moses' body remains unknown. However, it is possible that Satan desired to locate the burial site in order to establish a shrine, leading the Israelites into idolatrous worship of Moses' remains. As the representative of the people of Israel, Michael, the angelic guardian, would have sought to prevent such idolatry by keeping the burial site a secret. In Daniel chapter 10 verse 21, the angel Gabriel speaks of Michael as the one who stands firmly against hostile spiritual forces, the prince and guardian of Israel. The name Moses evokes different images in the minds of various individuals. His death is surrounded by some mystery in the Bible. Although he died at the age of 120, his eyes were not weak, nor his strength diminished. Moses was still in his prime when he was called home. Moses was prohibited from entering the Promised Land due to his disobedience at the waters of Meribah Kadesh. He led the Israelites to the very edge of Canaan and caught a glimpse of the land, but he was not permitted to enter. Before his death, God allowed Moses to behold the land he had left Egypt for. Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the summit of Pisgah, which stands at an elevation of 4,500 feet, nearly a mile high. It is a remarkable feat for a 120-year-old man to ascend such a height and survive. Moses accomplished this climb without the need for a trail, relying on his own strength. Aware that his time was near, Moses prepared himself, as God had already designated Joshua as his successor. The weighty responsibility of leading the nation was lifted from Moses' shoulders. For the first time in the last 40 years of his life, he could ascend the slope with ease, knowing that his final breath was imminent. As Moses beheld the Promised Land for the last time, a land he would never set foot upon, he found peace, for that was what God desired. Moses gave up his spirit and passed away according to the word of the Lord. Moses died alone but in peace. The account of his passing is found in the final 6 verses of Deuteronomy chapter 34. Death has a way of putting things into perspective. What a remarkable way to live, 120 years without needing glasses or crutches. Moses never spent his final days in a rocking chair, but instead he pressed on. The Israelites mourned Moses' passing for a whole month, deeply moved by his presence among them. Eventually, the period of mourning came to an end. Similarly, in our own lives, death is followed by burial. In Moses' case, verse 6 of Deuteronomy chapter 34 contains a remarkable statement about his burial. It says, "And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no man knows where his burial place is to this day." Moses is the only person in the Bible whom God personally buried. This fact highlights the significance of concealing his tomb. Otherwise, it would have become a shrine, with people flocking to Mount Nebo, erecting shrines, and offering various items and attractions. The burial site would have been turned into a spectacle, drawing crowds who would engage in idolatrous practices. To prevent this from happening, God chose to conceal Moses' burial place. This act of concealing the tomb is of utmost importance to the Lord. In fact, it even sparked an angelic confrontation. Michael the Archangel, a powerful fighter angel, is mentioned in the books of Daniel, Jude, and Revelation. He is depicted as one who contends and stands against evil spirits and principalities. The title, Archangel, signifies his highest rank among the angels. But despite his great power, Michael never presumed to speak reproachfully against the ruler of the realm of demons. Instead, he deferred to God and entrusted all rebuking to him. In Revelation chapter 12 verses 7-9, we witness a war in heaven, where Michael and his angelic forces engage in battle with the dragon, Satan. Ultimately, they prevail, and Satan is cast down to the earth along with his followers. This conflict emphasizes Michael's role as a fighter against spiritual forces of evil. While Michael is an exemplary figure, it is crucial to recognize his complete submission to the Lord. Even with his immense strength, he remains reverent and obedient. This teaches us an important lesson about submission and strength. It shows that submission does not diminish one's power, purpose, or value. Michael's submission to God is a beautiful testament to the harmony between strength and humility. In our own lives, we can learn from Michael's example. Confrontation, although unpleasant, is sometimes necessary to rectify, purify, and unify a community. However, it should never be carried out on our own authority. Instead, we should approach conflicts in the name of the Lord, acknowledging His ultimate authority and trusting in His wisdom. It is essential to remember that we, as creatures, must bow before the Creator. We do not possess the right to question His actions. While doubts may arise, we must recognize that God is both the Creator and the Redeemer. He cares for us, and His ways are always righteous and just. Every decision He makes is perfect. Therefore, we can place our trust in Him without reservation. In the end, when we are called to account, may we not be like those who only profess their faith but fail to obey God's commands. Let us honor His authority, value His person, and submit ourselves to His will. Just as Michael the Archangel exemplified submission alongside his strength, may we also embody humility and reverence in our walk with God. Michael's example serves as a reminder that submission to God's authority is not a sign of weakness, but rather a display of true strength. It is a recognition that God's wisdom and guidance surpass our own understanding. Despite being an archangel, Michael understood the need to rely on God's rebuke and judgment rather than asserting his own power. The confrontation between Michael and Satan highlights the ongoing spiritual battle that exists between the forces of good and evil. It reveals that even the highest-ranking angels engage in combat against the enemy. However, their victories are not achieved through their own authority, but by aligning themselves with the Lord's power and purpose. As we face our own spiritual battles and confrontations, we must learn to follow Michael's example. We should approach conflicts with humility, recognizing our own limitations and relying on God's strength. Our submission to God does not diminish our worth or purpose. Rather, it positions us to be vessels through which His power and righteousness can manifest. Just as Michael respected the authority and rank bestowed upon him, we too must acknowledge the authority of God in our lives. It is not for us to question or challenge His decisions, but to trust in His perfect plan. Through submission, we can experience the fullness of His guidance, protection, and provision. Let us reflect on the remarkable career of Moses, whom God personally buried and concealed his tomb. This act serves as a reminder of the reverence we should have for God's ways and His desire to protect His people from idolatry. May we learn from Moses' life, marked by his obedience and faithfulness, and from the example of Michael the Archangel, who demonstrated unwavering submission to God. In conclusion, the account of Michael the Archangel provides us with valuable insights into the balance between strength and submission. It shows us that true strength lies in humble reliance on God's authority, wisdom, and power. By emulating Michael's example, we can navigate conflicts, confrontations, and spiritual battles with grace and trust in the Lord's sovereignty.